In this video, I'm going to be walking through the process to get your project management certification. Hi, this is Latina, your project manager with Kinsman Point Consulting. I help project managers build healthy relationships with their projects and their teams, and I also help businesses get their projects finished. If this is of interest to you, please subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this video, and turn on the notifications so you can get future updates. All right, so let's talk. So I'm going to be specifically be talking about getting your project management certification through PMI.org, through PMI. Now, on that particular site, I highly encourage you to go out to the site and check it out and read through the qualifications that you need to get your certification. Everything that I'm going to be talking about can be found on that site. All right. Now, when you go to the site, there are other types of certifications that PMI offers. They offer the PMP. They also offer the CAP-M, the CPA, or is it CAP? I'll put the right one over here somewhere. But there's different types of certifications that you can get other than the PMP. I am specifically talking about the project management certification, the PMP. So what is the PMP? Just to give a little bit of an overview, I'm going to be working off of some notes and then we'll get into the specifics of the actual certification itself. So it's a credential that is managed by the Project Management Institute, and it recognizes your experience as a project manager along with your understanding of the knowledge areas such as process groups and the standards for project management. It's a global certification that gives you a common vocabulary within the and common project management guidelines. So it's a standard, right? And like I said, it's global. There are about, well, really more than 1 million project managers who are certified with this particular certification. So this certification has can give you, an added sense of credibility with your clients. There are some clients or organizations who look for project managers who have this certification when they're hiring or when they're wanting to interact with project managers. So it's a worthwhile certification to have simply because it has those credentials and that credibility attached to it. Now, with that said, let's talk about the eligibility requirements. So the eligibility requirements, you have to meet one of these two requirements. The first, having a 4-year degree, 36 months leading projects, and 35 hours of project management education or training, or have the CAP-M certification. The other qualification tier is having a high school diploma or associate's degree, 60 months of leading projects, and again, the 35 hours of project management education and training. So I'll get into those, some of those in a little bit of depth here in a moment. So first things first, you may have the degree, or you may meet the 4-year degree tier. You may meet the high school diploma or associate degree tier. But how do you get those 35 hours? Now, the 35 hours of training that you need, that's even before you apply or fill out the application to take the certification exam, right? So a couple of ways or a couple of suggestions to get those 35 hours. One, if you work for an employer, there may be an employer-led class or an employer-led boot camp that will provide you with those 35 hours of training credit. So check with your employer to see if that's a possibility. You may also want to check with your local PMI chapter. Project Management Institute, or PMI.org, is a national organization or a global organization, and there are chapters here in the US, for example, in various, almost every city and state. So you want to find your local chapter and check with them to see if they have a boot camp or a class that will qualify for those 35 hours that you need. Another potential area, there are some independent groups or organizations that provide training. Pluralsight, you may be familiar with, is another website or online training tool that you can sign up for, log into, get a membership or subscribe to it. And I believe they also have 35 hours of training. I'll put the link to the Pluralsight website in my description, and you can go click on that and check it out and see if they have, see what they have there. But those are just a couple of examples. You might want to connect with some Facebook groups or connect with some online groups that can also give you some insight on whether or not, or on where you can get those 35 hours. Okay. So before you even apply, you need to have that 35 hours of training, because on the application, it's going to ask you about those 35 hours and show proof that you've actually gone through those 35 hours of project management training. Okay. Now let's talk about the certification process. So a couple of steps. Step one, make sure you meet those eligibility requirements. Those ones I just mentioned, whether it's with the 4-year degree or with the high school diploma, you want to meet those, be able to meet those eligibility requirements. That's step one. Step two, you want to gather your information. So projects that you led, where those projects were, like where you were working, your role on the project, and the duration. Now that, again, depending on the tier, you might need 36 months of leading projects or the 60 months of leading projects. You have to show evidence of that. A really good tool that I used when I was going through this exam process, there was a website called PM Learning that had an Excel document, an Excel spreadsheet where you could actually fill out your projects, and it would actually it would calculate the duration, like the number of hours. If you needed 36 or if you needed 60, it would actually count it out for you. I'll put a link in the description of that particular website. Once you go to the website, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a PMI, or I think it's called PM exam application spreadsheet. Click on that. You can download it for free, and that's a really great way to start gathering your information. You want to start, again, you are going to need to have this information gathered before you fill out the application, because it's going to ask you for proof of all of that. So that spreadsheet is a great way to gather all of that and have that as your proof or your reference. And then finally, once you know that you meet the eligibility requirements, once you've gathered your project information, then you can go in and fill out the application. All right. Now I may do a separate video that talks a little bit about the application. It's pretty self-explanatory, to be honest. From my recollection, I don't recall that application being too terribly difficult to understand. It's the biggest thing is just having all the information prior to getting into the application. All right. Now, once you fill out the application, what happens after you submit it? Well, the application review, according to the website, as of right now, this is December 2021 at the time of this recording, it takes 5 to 10 days to review the application. Once they review your application and they mark you as approved, that is when you pay for the exam, pay to schedule the exam. Now, I will tell you that you might be called out for an audit. An audit basically is where they pull a random group of applications and they basically ask you for proof of all the things that you've said. That's one of the reasons why I mentioned the spreadsheet. One of the reasons why you want to take a approved, accredited 35-hour training course or boot camp, because you want to keep all those records, because they may ask you for that information in an audit. I didn't get audited. The group that I took my application process with, like a bunch of us that were in the same 35-hour class, I don't think any of them were audited. So it's truly random, but it's nothing to be alarmed about. If you get pulled out for that, if you've got your proof, no worries. You send them that proof, and then you're along your way. All right. So the app is reviewed 5 to 10 days. Once you're approved, then you pay for the exam. Now, paying for the exam as of this month of the recording, the cost, if you are a member of PMI, if you sign up to be a member of PMI.org, is $405. If you are not a member, it's $555. So there's, there's other perks too that I'll talk about a little bit later about being a member of PMI, but you pay for the exam and you get like an ID, and then that allows you to schedule your exam appointment. All right, you can take the exam in person or you can take it online. And we're going to talk about each of those and give you some examples of what to expect, because there are some different things to expect. And I have some experience that I can share. Now, taking the exam online, let's talk about that first. Now, once you schedule your exam, and it's going to be an online exam, so from that point, from the time, I recommend once you take your 35 hours of training, and you've filled out the application, you're approved, you can decide how far out in advance you want to take the exam. Between the time you schedule and the time you take it, you're pretty much studying and ramping up. I highly recommend you connect with some study groups online or in person to help you study. There's some study materials, or gather some study materials, study guides. I'll put a couple of links in the description of materials that I use to study for my exam. So I'll put those out there. There's some study prep guides that in addition to the PMBOK guide, which is the PMI's standard project management body of knowledge guide, there's that which you should read, but there's also other guides that supplement that make that material a lot more easier to understand. So I'll put a couple of links in the description on what I use, and you can decide if you want to use those as well. All right, so from the moment you get approved and you schedule your studying, now you're at exam time. So let's talk about taking that exam online. Couple of things you can expect. Now on the website, if you go out to the PMI.org website, let me just tell you this first. If you click on there's a link, there's a certification link, and then if you hover over that, there's a link under that called certification process, and then there's another link in there that says PMP. I think it says PMP exam prep. I think is what it is. I'll put it over here. the steps to get to that, but the reason why I'm directing you there on that website is that there is a video that talks about basically what to expect when you take the exam online. So I would recommend watching that video. It's a really good video, but I'm going to give you the highlights right now. So what you need when you take the exam online is a computer with a webcam, a reliable internet connection, and a quiet space for the entire duration of the exam. Okay? Let me get, that's the basics. Let me get into some other detail. So on exam day, you are going to take a system test. You can take the system test actually even before exam day, but you definitely should take it the day of the exam. It's a system test to make sure all systems are running well, that your computer is going to actually connect properly, and it can access all the systems. They recommend that you check in 30 minutes before the exam, that you show a valid ID, that and you're going to have to take pictures of your exam space. So wherever you're sitting, you want it to be uncluttered, unencumbered, nothing on your desk except for your computer. And you're going to take pictures of your surrounding space where you're going to be taking the test. They basically are checking to ensure you don't have any books, notes, papers, anything on the walls that would help you take the exam, to help you cheat. Basically, that's pretty much what they're doing. And you want a quiet space where no one is walking in and out of your exam. No one should be able to see the test on your computer except for you. So you want to tell people, your kids, your spouse, your significant other, anyone who lives with you, to not come into that space for the entire duration of the exam, because that could disqualify you if that happens. You cannot have any food or tobacco or chewing gum. Any liquids you have must be in a clear container. You can't have a smartwatch on while you're taking the test online. Again, just so that, nothing that could be deemed able to assist you in taking the exam. Again, I've mentioned your space has to be uncluttered, just your computer. You will have access to a built-in digital whiteboard. So if, like a scratch pad, if you needed it. So you'll have access to a scratch pad to take notes, or maybe to write down questions that you want to go back to later, but you'll have access to that. They ask that you not read the questions out loud. Again, they don't want you, there could be somebody on the other side of the camera or on the other side of your computer and you're reading the questions out loud. And so they want to prevent that. So they ask you not to do that, nor do they want you to cover your mouth while you're taking the exam, like sit like this while you're reading. If that's you want to practice not doing that while you're taking the exam, because that could be deemed as you could be speaking behind your hand to someone who's in the room. So very particular. And you don't want to move out of the camera space while you're testing. So none of this, right? You got to go drop down here or none of that. Can't do that. Because again, that can be deemed as you are attempting to cheat. Maybe pull a note and go check it before you go answer a question. So yeah, so that's also a thing. Now, if you're taking the PMP exam, which is what I'm talking about, what I'm reviewing, you can take at least one, maybe 2 breaks. It depends on the type of exam you're taking. I recall taking one 10-minute break after like almost midway through, like question 89 or so. I took a break. You get a 10-minute break. When you take that 10-minute break and you come back, excuse me, you will not be able to go back to the previous questions. So you'll have opportunity to review those first bank of questions before the break. But after you take your break, you can't go back to those questions. You're moving on to the next set of questions. Once you take your break, you can't take any unscheduled breaks. You can't just get up and be like, oh, I'm taking, if you're taking the exam online, your breaks are your breaks. If you move out of camera range and your face is no longer on the camera, that could absolutely disqualify you when taking the exam. So just a couple of tips. Now, all of that might have seemed super daunting. It's not. I mean, you're sitting in a room taking the exam. You're going to be focused. So those guidelines are all on the website. You can read through them. Those are just guidelines to ensure that the test is fair, that you don't have opportunity or space to cheat on the exam, and that everybody's on the same playing field when taking the test online. It is super convenient to take it online. You don't have to go out to a testing center. You don't have to worry about having to get to the testing space or using a different computer that you're not used to, those types of things. I will also tell you too that on the online exam, you cannot, it can just be your computer with the webcam. You cannot have a second monitor attached. Okay, that's another piece that I'll mention to you as well. But go out to that video and check it out, and that it walks through all of that and gives you all the details. Okay, all right. So that's taking the exam that's taking the exam online. What about taking it at a testing center? So let's talk about that. So when you schedule your exam for whatever testing center that you choose, you want to do a little bit of recognizance, right? You want to do a little bit of pre-work, I call it. So make sure you know where it is, right? That's obvious, right? But even more than that, you might want to drive to the testing center at the time that you're going to be taking it, if possible, just to get a feel for what the traffic might be like, whatever. So you can, and drive to the testing center also, so you can know where you're going to be parking. So you don't have that, you're not unfamiliar on testing day. I took my test at a testing center, and I did go to the testing center prior to. I knew where it was, but I'd never been to that particular building before, so it helped out to be able to do that. You may want to call the testing center and ask about the accommodations. Ask about what it is that you're going to get when you get into the building, what types of checks they do when you arrive. They're likely going to check your ID. They're likely going to check to make sure you don't have any like notes or papers going into the testing center with you. You may have access to a locker to put things like, depending on the season, your coat or your sweater, something to drink, because I don't recall if I could take my drink into the testing center, but I could have it when I went on break. So things like that. You want to ask all those questions. A lot of testing centers will give you a scratch pad. The scratch pad is usually, it could be a couple things. It could be paper and pencil. It could be a whiteboard with a dry erase. So it could be any number of things that they give you. So just ask for what those accommodations are. Some of them will allow you to have bring your own earplugs, or they'll give you earplugs just because you'll be in the testing center with other people. So if you want to block out noise, they may give you those, or again, they may let you bring your own. So call and ask about that. With the breaks, because you do get at least one break when you're taking the PMP, take a light snack. Take some water, to put into your locker or wherever they'll let you keep it, so that you can have that during your break. If that's not you, if you're not a person that's going to need a snack, then don't bring it, or you may bring it just in case, right? Either way. So, and like I said before, they will check to ensure that you're not bringing anything that you're not allowed to bring, that you don't have any notes or anything in your pockets, or you don't have on any, they'll check, I recall them checking my glasses to see if I had anything going on there. I was like, okay, yeah. So I remember them doing that. So they just keep that in mind. So that's taking it at the testing center. Now, the time of the test and the number of questions on the test, I'll put that right over here so you can see what that is. But it is a time test. There's a certain number of questions that you need to answer within a specific allotted time. I will tell you that when I took my test, I had extra time at the end. So you do want to pace yourself. And that brings up a really good point. When you're taking your test, prior to, you do want to take mock exams. Get with a study group, or get online with a study organization that focuses on the PMP, that also offers mock exams. I have a couple of examples that I'll put in the description, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second. But yeah, mock exams are great because it allows you to simulate the testing environment and also test your knowledge. So, your study habits and your testing, you definitely want to have a schedule for how you study, so that when you get to the exam, you're prepared. Now, what if you don't pass the exam? Okay, so here's the thing. When you apply for the PMP, when you pay your fee to schedule, you can take that exam within 1 year, and you can take it 3 times within that year from the time that you are approved. Okay, now, if you don't pass it the first time, you will have to pay to take it again. So good thing is that all is not lost. You can take it, you can reschedule right away, or reschedule as far out in advance as you need within that year to retake it, but you will have to pay a fee to take it. And I would recommend going out to the website at the time to see what that fee is. Now, so just to recap, so your game plan here, excuse me, your game plan, review the PMI.org website. Just get in there, start looking at the certification that you want to take and the process by which you need to take it, what the eligibility requirements are. Everything that I mentioned here is out on that site. Determine how to get your 35 hours. Okay, connect online, check with your employer to see if they offer a boot camp or a class. I have a couple of resources I'll recommend here in just a moment that you could potentially use, and I'll put those in the description. Start gathering your project information. Go to the PM Learning Solutions website that I have in the description. Pull that spreadsheet out and start putting in or charting your projects. Do that now. Don't wait until It's almost time for you to apply to do it. It'll be worth it. It'll organize it for you very nicely. And then start the application process. Again, don't put it off. Start the process. If this is a goal for you in 2022, no time like the present to start looking at that information now in preparation for that. And you also consider becoming a member of PMI, PMI.org. It's $129 a year as of the date of this recording, plus a one-time application fee. You can also at the same time become a member of and pay for your chapter organization. A couple of perks you get by doing that is that you do have access to the PMBOK guide, the Project Management Body of Knowledge guide, for free. You get a digital copy. You get a digital copy for free, and you also get a discount if you want to purchase the paper version. So that's a plus. I purchased the paper version. I liked I liked having the paper version. The digital was great when I needed to just reference it while I was traveling and I wanted to read through it then to do some studying. You also, as a member of PMI, get access to taking on-demand webinars or scheduled webinars to get PDUs. Because once you are certified as a project manager, that certification lasts for 3 years. The way that you maintain that certification is by gathering or accumulating a certain number of PDUs over that 3-year period. And the website will tell you how many PDUs you actually need. And being a member of PMI allows you to take those PDUs that they offer. And there's several ways you can get PDUs, but I will usually check out their PDUs, and I'll usually sign up for them, and I can take them they usually have them at different times throughout the days and weeks and months, and I'll listen in on those, during my lunch break, or I'll take a break and listen to those, and it's a great way to get your PDUs. So that there's a couple of perks to being a part of the PMI, being a PMI member. So I recommend doing that. And I'll put a link to the PMI.org website in the description so you can go check them out. All right, last thing, some helpful resources for you. So PMI.org, of course, that's where you're going to go. That's your one-stop shop if you're taking the PMP certification through PMI. Another resource that I found super helpful was a YouTube channel called Praizion Media, and I'll put the name and the logo here for you to see that, and I'll put a link in the description. Praizion Media, the person who runs that, his first name is Phil, and great. I mean, he is an excellent PMP expert. All right, I learned so much from his website, so much from his material. I watched a lot of his videos, which he has a lot of free content out there, but I also purchased a couple of his materials in order to shore up my knowledge of PMI and the PMP. So I would highly recommend going out there and at least checking out the videos he has. He is talking right now about the latest version of PMI, because we know we've switched over from edition 6 to a 7th edition. So he's on track with talking about the 7th edition and what it's all about. So go check him out. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description for that. Great resource. And what I also do, because I dialed into his learning management system and took his course, I did a lessons learned video on his Facebook page. So I'll put a link in the description to that particular video. You might have to sign up to be a member of that Facebook group. Not sure, but I'll put a link out there if you want to check that particular lessons learned video out. But he does put lessons learned videos out on YouTube as well of people who have taken his courses, passed the PMP, and they come back on to share their experiences. That is a great resource. So go check him out. And then finally, the last two things I already mentioned, the free PMP application spreadsheet from PM Learning Solutions. I'll put a link in the description for that. And then also I'll put a link in the description to Pluralsight because I believe they have course that will give you your 35 hours that you need. And also Pluralsight is a great website to get training and a lot of other project management, soft skill learning, or project management tools and techniques that you might need. So I'll put a link in the description for that. All right. That's it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you a great overview of what to expect when getting your PMP certification. Best of luck to you. You can do it. Trust me. It's not the easiest, but it's worth it, right? To have that certification, to have that under your belt, and to have those tools and techniques and that common vocabulary of project management knowledge to help you be more efficient and effective in your projects. All right? Okay. So this is Latina, your project manager with Kinsman Point Consulting. If you have a project that needs finished, let me know. If you are a project manager that wants more assistance in building a healthy relationship with your project or your team, chat with me in the comments. Let me know what other content you would like to see on this channel, and we'll talk more. All right? Thanks. Bye.